Peace and blessings, family. This is your brother, asarimhotep, with the Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology, and this is the Mbongi. And today is Saturday, May the 28th, 2022, and we have with us another dynamic and powerful guest. As you all know, this is the Cleveland All Stars Week. And we have been interviewing some powerful people from the city of Cleveland, Ohio. And today, ending our week, we have with us Mr. Tony F. Sias, who is the president and CEO of the Karamu House in Cleveland. And so we're going to learn more about his story and his interest, what he's doing, and what he will be doing in the near future. All that and more when we return in just a bit. Welcome. Peace and blessings, everyone. Those of you who are catching us live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter, and those of you who are catching the archives, love and light to each and every one of you. Again, it is a Saturday morning, and we know that y'all could be up watching cartoons or cleaning the house, but you chose to sit down and listen to us share good and valuable information. So we appreciate each and every one of you. And as we mentioned, it is the Cleveland All Stars Week here at the Mbongi. And this was inspired as a result of going to Detroit, Michigan, a number of weeks ago for the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. And I decided to drive all the way from West Philadelphia to Detroit. And the GPS had me drive through Ohio. And, you know, I happen to know of our good brother Kevin Hurd, aka MC Chill, as well as Sister LaDosha Wright. And I said, on my way back, I'm going to make sure that I hit them up and see if we can meet and chill for a bit. So I've known them online for a number of years, but, you know, this was our first time actually physically meeting. So when I did circle back after the conference to head back to Philly, I stopped, of course, in Cleveland and had an opportunity to meet two other individuals. One who I was familiar with because I've been interviewed on his radio show. And I was also introduced to the gentleman who we will have the conversation today. And so I've been meaning to interview LaDosha and Brother Kevin for a minute. So I just decided, since I've met all these wonderful people, let's just make it a week. So that's how the Cleveland All Stars Week on the Mbongi came about. So as you all know, we started off with our good brother Kevin Hurd, and then the other brother who I mentioned was Brother Vince Robinson. And yesterday, on Thursday, we had a conversation with Sister LaDosha, right, and learned all about her. And today, ending off the week, is Mr. Tony F. Sias. And again, he is the president and CEO of the Karamu House. And we'll learn more about this legendary and historic uh, place and production house. He is an actor, a playwright, I believe, as well as an educator. And so he's doing some big things. You know, we are the promoters. We are, uh, or we do promote the arts here at the Mbongi because they play a very, very vital role in the overall cultural system and economics uh, of a community, of a society, of a nation. And so, without further ado, I want to bring in Mr. Tony F. Sias. Peace and blessings. How are you today?
Good morning. How are you, brother?
I am well. I am well. I am well. And again, want to thank you for taking the time out to converse with the Mbongi. And I had an opportunity when I was in Cleveland. That was my first time in Cleveland. To have conversations with Brother Vince and Brother Kevin, just about the history and the powerful people and the things going on in Cleveland, and
hmm
not enough light is shined, in my opinion, on this particular city, and of course the people that um, who emerge either have moved there or have been born and lived there all their lives. It's a very, very dynamic and powerful place. And so during that conversation, that's when you walked in. It was like, hey, you need to know uh, Brother Tony, and so the rest is history. So I appreciate you again coming on the program. I know there was a little snafu because we originally was supposed to be on Thursday, but you're here, and that's all that matters. So thank you again. And since you are new to the Mbongi, to this particular program, can you tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of where you were born from, and what got you in to this acting space?
Well, first of all, again, it is great being here this morning and to share. Well, I'm Tony Fitzgerald Sias. I am
Mhm,
from Jackson, Mississippi.
mhm,
I am number 5 of 6 children of Helen and Leo Sias. I have
mhm,
4 sisters and 1 older brother. Um, this acting thing, this directing thing, the arts in general has just been a part of my life from growing up. You know, um, to try to wrangle us all in, my parents would have a Saturday afternoon talent show,
mhm,
and we'd all have to prepare, whether it was a poem or play the piano, because we all had to take piano lessons at some point in your life. I took it for about an hour, and I said, like, nah, dog, that ain't me.
mhm,
Um, but I really enjoyed art. So arts and culture has just been a part of my life from the time I can remember. And one of the first roles I got, I was at a place that I went for early childhood called Hearts Baptist Center. And I actually got cast in the role of Jesus in the Easter or resurrection pageant. And my parents were standing there. And my father leaned over to my mother and he said, "Why is the devil playing Jesus?" Talking
mhm,
about me. So it's been this thing, from that point forward, whether it was in high school, and of course, my undergraduate in speech and dramatic art, and my graduate in acting. So it's just been with me from the time I can remember.
mhm. The last time I did any acting was sixth grade. Uh, in terms of I forgot what play it was. I've done, and continue to do, spoken word poetry and music and the like. but acting is a totally different beast. And so, you're originally from Mississippi.
Yes.
What brought you to Cleveland?
Well, I was did my MFA at Ohio University, and to complete
Mhm.
the program, that third year, you had to get a residency at a regional theater, and so
Mm,
I secured a residency at the Cleveland Playhouse, and so that's
mm,
what brought me to Cleveland, and so um, got to did the residency, and I was headed to New York, and then life happened, and
mhm.
30 years later, wait, yeah, 31 years later, here I am in Cleveland, having lived in Cleveland longer than I lived in Mississippi. So, I am truly a transplant that is rooted in this great city.
Indeed, indeed. So, can you tell us a bit about and am I pronouncing it correctly, the Karamu House?
Correct. That is
All
correct.
right.
Well, the Karamu House, well, the word Karamu is a Swahili word that means a place of joyful gathering in the center of the community.
Mm,
Um, and Karamu House is the oldest Black producing theater in the country. We're celebrating 107 years this month. We were
mm,
founded in 1915 by a Jewish couple, Russell and Rowena Jelliff, who were Oberlin graduates. They were social workers. And so the Karamu House originally was founded as a settlement house. And as you know, settlement houses were early forms of social service agencies. And at the time that they founded the institution, it was they were serving Eastern European immigrants. And by the 1950, about 1917, 1918, um, African Americans began to move into the neighborhood. And the neighborhood in Cleveland is called the Central Neighborhood, but it was known back in the day as the Roaring Third.
mm,
Um, and so as the community changed, the Jelliff welcomed Black folks um, into the organization. And the story goes is that, the two little Black boys on the front porch of the Karamu House, and they looked inside and they saw people in there, and they were, doing theater games and acting. And they knocked on the screen and asked Mrs. Jelliff, could they come in? And that was the beginning of the integration of Karamu House. And so quite often people think that, this Jewish couple set out to, create this Black cultural arts center. And that was not the case.
mm,
The case was that the neighborhood began to change, and they were not about serving just Jewish people or Eastern European immigrants, but they were committed to serving community. And I think that that's a much more powerful story in terms of who they were, right at the turn of the century, and their consciousness about people and community. And 107 years later, here we are, in the midst of this renaissance in terms of the organization. What's important is that by the 1940s, Karamu House had accomplished a few things, a number of things, and that would include we had a dance ensemble that had gone to the World's Fair. We had already had one company, acting company, to travel Europe, and that we were really known as this kind of training ground by the
mm,
1960s, 70s as the premier training ground for Black artists. And, people getting trained at Karamu House would go to New York and LA and, out into the world. And if people saw Karamu on their resumes, they would give them kind of carte blanche, because they knew that these people had had the proper training and pedagogy in whatever discipline, whether it was theater, dance, vocal music, instrumental music, and visual art. Um, so we have incredible luminaries, arts luminaries that's come out of Karamu House. First, Langston Hughes got his start at Karamu House. And,
mm,
and he was very dear friends with the Jelliffs. His parents uh, left Cleveland around 1916, 17. They moved to Chicago. And Langston stayed here to finish high school. And so he then went to the settlement and connected with the Jelliffs. And many of his plays were premiered, works premiered at Karamu House. So then you move on and you think about, okay, we got the incredible Robert Guillaume, who got his start. Uh, Superfly Ron O'Neill. I never want to forget Mr.
mm.
O'Neill. Today, when you think about artist of today, We've got Vanessa Bell Calloway, Imani Hakeem, James Pickens Jr. The list goes on. And we're just so honored to still be present here today because, we're the oldest Black producing theater in the country. But there were theaters prior to Karamu and companies that are no longer here with us. And so it's speaking to our resilience and the commitment and vision, mission of the institution. It's really important that we are here today and continue to be here for 100 years ahead of us.
Indeed. And this is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the rich history, coming out of Cleveland, Ohio, that many people may not be aware of, and why, having these conversations and of course having these types of spaces are important. So now I want to kind of shift to the kinds of work that is being produced out of the Karamu House. And can you tell us a number of very important works that have come out of there and their meaning to you personally and to the world in general?
Yes. Well, I want to just say our mission is to produce professional theater, provide arts education, and present community programs for all people while honoring the Black experience. And so central to that mission is doing works by, about, for, and with Black folks. And I have, at one point in the mission, it was about African American, but, Black in terms of being inclusive, that from the diaspora perspective. And so always social justice has always been a part of our DNA at the organization. So we really are conscious in selecting a season that deals with socially relevant issues. And how do we then have community conversations in response to those pieces? When selecting a season, we always are thinking about what's happening in the world around us. And how can we use theater as a vehicle, not just to entertain, but to educate and to activate community towards change, positive change. So it's important for us to look at pieces that, such as we opened the season this year after the pandemic with a show called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Well, we know the August Wilson piece. We know that there was a production done that featured Viola Davis recently. And so people say, well, why would you do that piece? It was just a movie. Well, quite often, individuals, the non-theater folks, sometimes once a play is made into a movie, it becomes familiar to the masses. And so then when you use a title like Ma Rainey, then those who have seen it in the cinema, I'm going to use the term cinema, then come to the live theater performance to experience it as well. So there's an opportunity, it's a strategy for us in that example to really begin to engage new audiences. But around social justice, Ma Rainey was one of the first artists that stood up for herself to have rights and ownership to her work and to talk about her style and not to be compromised by the industry. And so we're talking about women's rights. We're talking about Black rights when you produce a piece like that, and having community conversations in response to theatrical productions is an important part of our model. When you talk about important works, one of the I've been at Karamu since 2015, and we've usually curating shows that have already been written, and we've done some new works, but not a lot of new works. And let me reframe that. We've done our fair share of new works. We have not done divided works that Karamu has produced. Recently did that at the point that George Floyd was murdered. We were planning to do a virtual concert for Juneteenth, and we were going to celebrate Bill Withers because he had recently died. So at the point that Mr. Floyd was murdered, we said we're going to scrap this virtual concert, and we had to use our platform to the community to speak to that atrocity. And so we created a piece called Freedom on Juneteenth. And it was
Mhm.
a piece that really educated our community around Juneteenth, but used that as a springboard to talk about the historical trajectory of Black folks in this country. So the piece kind of started with, the acknowledgement of Juneteenth. We went on to the Harlem Renaissance. From the Harlem Renaissance, then we went to um, um, we kind of shifted over into the 1950s. We dealt with the murder of Emmett Till. And it was important for us to stop at that point because, as we know, the murder of Emmett Till really was the inciting incident for the civil rights movement. And so we
Mhm.
then used that springboard to then talk about the movement and movements that we've been experiencing since then. Then we went to the 1970s. Um, and then we got to today. And so that piece, we were hoping that we put it out there and that we have 10,000 viewers. And within the first, I'm going to say 48 to 24 to 48 hours, we had 50,000 viewers. And it
Mhm.
expanded our brand beyond our current footprint of East 89th and Quincy Avenue. And that piece was very important, and we got a overwhelming response to the piece. And then from that point, excuse me, we created these small episodes called Freedom After Juneteenth, and that really dealt with
Mhm.
well, one episode was police the African American community. We then went on to two episodes voting. Again, great response, and it was that's the kind of work that we want to continue to do. Uh, And so I kind of took us to that moment because the work really was able to help educate people around voting, policing, and trauma in the Black community, and really trigger these ongoing conversations around activations that can occur in terms of how you educate yourself to then make the next steps around advocacy.
Indeed. Uh, we are here at the Mbongi, and we're talking with Mr. Tony F. Sias, who is the president and CEO of the Karamu House. And if you are liking and loving this conversation, I'm going to need each and every one of you to that is right. Hit the likes. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure that you subscribe and you hit the little bell so that you get all of the updates for when we have these live conversations or if we upload a video, and so that we can keep these powerful conversations going and disrupt and totally disrespect the uh, YouTube algorithms so that names like Karamu House and Tony Sias and Sister LaDosha and Brother Kevin and Brother Vince, their names get out there, and make sure that you share the video and you keep the conversation going. So now I want to get into kind of the art of acting itself. And, like for someone who's, acting experience only goes to the sixth grade play, um, at my middle school, uh, I never had the opportunity to really kind of just dive in and, and just really think about what it takes to transform oneself into another character and to help the audience, you know, uh, remove you personally from the character and just see that, kind of come through, whether it be in to use your term, cinema versus the stage play. And then we're going to get into the difference in terms of acting for the stage play versus cinema. And is there any real unique differences? You know, how does one transform from those two, you know, mediums?
Well, one of the things I would say, my approach is not necessarily removing myself, but it's
Uh-huh.
how I use my whole self in different ways to interpret a character.
All
Because as
right.
an actor, my body is my instrument, and all of my elements, who I am, is what I bring to this. Very different from other art forms that, the musician has a clarinet, a piano. What I have
Mm,
is me. That's what I bring. And one of the number one things in terms of acting is, what is the text? What material are you interpreting, embodying? And I spend a lot of time with text interpretation. So before I do a whole bunch of acting, I want to understand who these characters are, where they come from, what's
mm.
their zodiac sign, what's their family history, what are the things that has made this person? Because this is a human being who has a set of experiences that you are embodying, just not just saying the lines of being funny and yada yada yada. And so really that process, I honor that process highly. So in the theater world, once you are with the ensemble, the company of actors, sitting down and talking about the work before you start acting, we call that table work, where you
Mm,
really collectively talk about thoughts, ideas, concepts, who these characters are, what their relationships are. Um, the other piece is, for me, is that I am a physical actor.
mm,
So I kind of want to know where this character center is. What is their gait? What's their walk? How do they breathe? Are there things that's happened in their life to uh, impact how one carries oneself? If a
mm,
character has dealt with a lot of issues around issues. They live in different places in your body, which then can impact how you then present to the world. The other piece is that in acting, once you do your table work and you get on your feet, you start acting in the whatever the environment that you're acting in. We call it moving around the space. That's called blocking. And then
mm,
many times, some directors want you to come into the rehearsal process off book, and that means learning having your lines are committed to memory. And I'm not one of those actors who want to come in off book, because what's important to me is to explore the environment. And once you come in off book, many times you set rhythms in your head. You got this thing that's kind of in there. It's one thing to be familiar with them and know and have a familiarity with the lines, but it's another thing to have them off book. So my approach is, let me get in the space and let me understand the blocking. Let me get that in my body, so that then that space, that environment, that movement then helps me know that if I'm going to cross to the table and pick up a cup and I'm saying the line, good morning, that has a meaning. And so I
mm,
want to be able to explore, that in the process. And so that's really a part of my personal approach to the work. Um,
mm,
yeah, and voice work is important. The science of acting is around voice and movement and the breath, because the breath governs the emotion. And I'm an actor who likes to warm up, because all movement starts at the spine. And so having your body available and warm and ready, it means that you can be responsive to the given circumstances, the lines that are being said to you, the environment that you're in. Um, so that's really important to me. And there are other actors who don't require all touch and feel stuff, who can just kind of get the lines, jump in, and walk into the space. Mine is so around um, centering me and
mm.
allowing the spirit of the ancestors and God to work with me as I embody a character. So it is very uh, ritualistic in terms of my approach.
Indeed. And I always wonder, and maybe you can help me out in terms of your personal experience. How does the art of acting and being an actor help you to see other people in real life, or empathize, or see other perspectives? Does I guess it's, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, in terms of this question. But is it, because you're just like this already, in terms of a particular way that you bring that into the acting, as kind of what you said earlier, or has the acting itself, helped you to be, or I should ask, has it helped you to be, more open and more empathetic to other human situations? What how does that affect, like, your real life and interactions with other human beings?
So, as an actor, great question. As an
Hmm.
actor, I innately just kind of study people and environments.
Hmm.
And some people talk about kind of being able to read the room. So I am very highly sensitive to energy in spaces, um, uh, the way people carry themselves, how they present, and I'm very responsive to that. And I take note of those things, which allows me to have a sense of empathy for individuals. And you know, me, Tony, and I don't know if this has anything to do with acting, but I'm
Hmm.
always trying to come from a place of love and peace. And
Hmm.
so, that being, who I am, uh, connecting with people in the world and connecting with those dynamics, uh, physically are carrying themselves, how they present, allows me to just be attuned to humans in a way that some others may not be attuned to situations and circumstances. Um, you know, there's I've done a wealth of things outside of theater, and one of them is kind of work in social service and drama therapy and things like that. And there's a activity to do called a photo kind
Hmm.
of therapy kind of thing. And I use the word therapy loosely in the context of this conversation in this moment, but it's kind of like reading pictures. And you look at a family portrait, and it's not necessarily a normal family portrait, and looking at the dynamics of who's standing where, how people are touching, how they're connecting, who's the mother, who's the father, who's the cousin, who's this, and that image and interpreting those images give you a lot of information.
Hmm.
And so, kind of then moving back into dealing with people, I use that to kind of say, how can we work together? How can we collaborate? How can we diffuse a situation? How can we be
Hmm.
fully present and be able to then understand that what's going on in a space is not what it sometimes it appears. It's what's happening under that. It's kind of in the theater world when we're doing working on scripts and dissecting this. It's text interpretation, and we talk about the subtext. And so I feel very good about working in sometimes challenging situations to then shepherd a situation forward towards resolution. And I feel like acting has helped me, and directing, because I
Hmm.
do more directing these days than acting, has helped me be able to be effective in those spaces.
If I read correctly, you're also an educator, or have been, in trying to help young people in the school system, kind of navigate into the arts and the like. What is it like working with young people, and what are the kinds of things that you would like to instill in them, and what are you trying to bring out of them as a part of your, curriculum and the like?
So, for me, with young people specifically, or people in general,
Hmm.
is that I view the arts and excuse me, arts and arts training is a vehicle for self-discovery.
Hmm.
And it's important that through using the arts, that it's not an act. The goal is should be mastering whatever discipline that you're focused on
Hmm.
and um, striving towards excellence. And when you think about that, and the question is, do we ever master anything? We probably get really, really, really good at it. But the aspiration of mastery and going, challenging oneself. And so at the end of the day, I look at the arts as a vehicle for that discovery. And so if a young person or an artist chooses to go to school and go to the conservatory or do whatever, focus in on a career in the arts, awesome. But my goal is that you use the arts as a vehicle to become a pathway to be a positive contributing member in our society.
Hmm.
That is what is most important. And so if you are then striving for excellence and you have sequential instruction in the education where it's progressive and that you're learning, you know, that's what I want young people to do. Quite often in many school districts around our country, and I'm going to say most often in Black communities and Black and Brown communities, the same kinds of investment in arts and arts education is not there. And as
Hmm.
we know that, you know, uh, and if other communities don't have it, you quite often parents are in a position to then augment what is not in the school with private instructions and other kinds of lessons. But every child has a right to arts education, because without arts education, you have an imbalanced education,
Hmm.
and so that's really important that we continue to do that. I have gone down this. I feel like I'm babbling at this point, so I want you to get me back on track in response to
Hmm.
your original question. So I hope I
No, no,
answered it.
no. You have, and I I'm more, I have my creative side in terms of the music, in terms of spoken word poetry, and more like visual art type deal. But more people know me from like the either the Africana historiography or with computer science and the like. And I try to tell folks that like the STEM is needed and it's good, but if you don't cultivate the people's creativity, you don't provide them a mission for all of these other things. And I think that's in essence where that balance comes in, because you need something to stir up the juices, to start thinking beyond what is, you know and
Yes.
and that's why getting involved in all of these, whatever the arts is and what you consider the arts, is as long as it has your imagination thinking beyond what is and what could be, you know uh that helps to fuel the technologies, because now you may have a certain type of vision, let's say for a play or a film, but the technology doesn't exist yet, and you can kind of steer that in a direction. So like when we think about like flying cars and planes, they were in early um, comic books and the like, and just these ideas, and the watches where you can talk and into the future or whatnot, and you could see somebody when we were doing these types of things. It didn't exist, but it's those people who were in these various different arts who imagined it, and the technology was like, okay, well, the scientist was like, let's see if we could make that happen. What would it take? And so they help each other.
Well, you said STEM, and I say
Okay.
I'm a proponent of STEAM. And once you
Ah.
add that A in there, that truly is a balanced education. And I think STEM
Mhm.
is important, but STEM is not the whole. And to your point, the arts are today's world is about design. And so,
Mhm.
as an actor, as a director, as a musician, you are designing, and it talks about critical thinking and how you work in teams. And all of those are skills that many young people need to get. And that's a part of the importance of arts education, so that you can go into work environments and understand how you work as a team and problem solve, and allow your creativity to fuel the next level of innovation. So without that, to all these great inventions that we're living with today. You talk about the phone, your watch. I say we're living in the Jetsons time. Who would have thought, to your point,
Yeah,
that some of the things that you see on the Jetsons television show we're actually doing today?
exactly. And uh, and I wish, like I one of the, like, even in, like, when I'm doing poetry and the like, I try to articulate a design for the world. And it's not just, to think about certain technologies, like what kind of social settings, what kind of, human technologies in terms of language, the algorithms in terms of how we interact with each other, and what kind of impact that would have, for the future. Like it takes the arts to keep this in the forefront of the minds, of the public. And when we had our conversation with Brother Vince Robinson, he's into to radio and communications, and we talked about the importance of Black media,
Mm-hmm.
and precisely kind of for this reason, because if you didn't have those spaces, if you didn't have that platform, you know, we would have one less arena to have a serious conversation in a very different way of the George Floyd incident,
Yes.
or of Juneteenth, minus the Walmart ice cream that's recent of today. That's another conversation. But I want to kind of shift now to, in these last few moments, the directing piece. And so it's one thing to be in front of the camera or on stage, but now you have to kind of synthesize and direct people to make sure that the whole, is right and exact. So can you tell us about that hat? What is involved in that process, and what do you get out of putting on a director's hat?
Well, director's hat is actually where I really am today.
Hmm.
I love directing. I love looking at a script and saying, how do you bring these words to life? And so directing theatrical production, yes, it's around the actors, but it's working with an entire design team. So to then have a set designer, a lighting designer, a sound designer, a costume designer. Uh, if it's a show that has any physical interaction or intimacy, there's an intimacy coach. If it's stage combat, you then have a stage combat professional coming in to do the coaching with the actors. Um, so really, it's opening up your imagination to create an entire world for viewers and audiences to come experience. And that is just so rewarding to me. And that for a person who has this endless streams of thoughts and imaginations, directing really allows me to kind of put it into action, to say, wow, we've known a play. We know that Johnny Jones directed this play, and this is how Johnny did it. And now it's my opportunity to use my imagination, my acting company, the designers that have been chosen to work on a particular piece, to interpret. And so it's really around collaboration. And
Mm-hmm.
quite often there are directors who kind of walk into the space and know, I want this character to look like this. I have this vision of it, do it this way, exactly the way I do it. And that's not my approach. I'm interested in hearing what an actor thinks about a character, his or her interpretation of the work, And I want to go on that exploration process with you, inherently knowing that my direction is going to shape and guide that particular character aligned to the overarching concept, mission, and vision of that particular production. But so I want to act it a play. I want you to give you a moment to explore the character, and then we're going to work together in creating and honing in on exactly who and what that character is. The collaboration is with designers. You know, I usually present a concept statement around the overarching production, and that concept statement serves as the go-to for designers. So I want them to explore, but explore within the context of this concept statement, so that then allows all of the designers, the interpreters, the actors to then be able to this vision. And when you give people that concept statement, that sometimes that statement can evolve, but you have to communicate the evolution of that thing. But most often, it doesn't. And that then if there's a question about something, I say, well, let's think about what the concept statement is that we has been established. Then that allows you, the world, to work a lot of space to work under the umbrella of that statement. And that's been very helpful, because quite often, you know, people always say they want autonomy, whether it's in work, but people want to be directed. They want to have information to know what are the expectations. And I think that concept statement serves as an important tool, instrument, step in the process to unify a piece, but also give the interpreters, designers, actors an opportunity to explore.
Yes. And what are your plans? Well, I shouldn't say what are your plans for the future. What do you have coming?
So,
in the moment?
Karamu House is in the midst of a huge renovation, huge for us. We are in phase 3 renovation. It's a little over $4.5 million phase of renovation at Karamu House. And we are creating an outdoor space, outdoor stage that will be able to do kind of concerts, but it's a 4-season room space that will connect the north side of our building to the south side. We're then adding a bistro to our campus. We're renovating a small theater, and there's a suite on the second floor of Karamu House that legend says that sometimes when Langston would come back, once he moved to New York, Langston Hughes, he would come back and stay at Karamu House when he was a younger man in this apartment. Got funds from the National Trust to renovate or restore that space. So we're excited to have a whole space, kind of suite dedicated to Langston. But Karamu House is more than a theater. So we have programming. So we have a summer arts academy for our young people. We serve in the summer students grades 7 through 12. And then we have a signature event. And our signature event is something called the Second Line Parade and Sneaker Ball. And the tradition of Second Line is a New Orleans tradition that celebrates the life of one who has passed on. And, you know, there's the original processional when the family comes in, and the second line is after the funeral, and it celebrates the life. And if you've gone to New Orleans, sometimes you can see a second line parade, and it's about the community coming together. Whether or not you know that person, it's coming in. So, cut to the chase. We celebrate the life of a resident in Lakeview Cemetery, and Cleveland Lakeview Cemetery is one of the most beautiful cemeteries you would ever go to. It's designed as a very hilly English garden. It's a very peaceful, beautiful place. But we do our event there. So on August 6th, here in Cleveland, we will have our Second Line Parade and Sneaker Ball. It's an all-white affair. And all white, I said, and one of my colleagues that's a white person, she says, it's all, you have to change the way you're saying that. I said, no, you have to change the way you hear it. So
already
attire is all white, and we encourage people to wear your sneakers because you're comfortable. We do it out in the we tour the cemetery, and then we have a celebration of life. We have a processional around a pond. We celebrate the life of a resident, a Karamu alum or Cleveland notable who is resting at peace at Lakeview. And then we have a celebration of life. So go to Karamu, secondline.com, and I see the link is up to get some pictures and images of our 2019 celebration. But we really want people to see this as a destination celebration and support of the country's oldest Black producing theater. So if you want to end your summer in grand fashion, join us at Karamu House at our Second Line Parade and Sneaker Ball.
Indeed, and you can get more information about the Karamu House itself at karamuhouse.org. And as a native of New Orleans, Louisiana, we've seen many a second line. I've been a part of a second line even from our grandfather, and it's one of those traditions that personally I feel should spread and just be a staple of just African American, funerary processions. But I'm glad to see that the culture is spreading, and there's aspects of that can be traced, back to Africa itself, and we've had conversations about that on the channel many a times. But I do appreciate greatly you sharing again your wisdom and the history, of the theater production, and just letting us kind of delve into your life and just get some insight. And I hope this inspires those of you, even if you're not in Cleveland, to just go out and catch a play and see, immerse yourselves in the arts, and especially you fellas, if you really want to win some points with your lady, take her to a play.
Yes.
Women love when you plan and when they have to dress up for something. So if you don't have an idea, look to see what plays are going on in your local area. But are there any last words that you want to have or you want to give, to the Mbongi audience before you leave?
I just think thank you for the opportunity
Mhm.
to be a part of network and family you've created as a part of this platform. Great conversation. I just encourage people to be kind to each other and remember that these are challenging times, and there's not been a time that's not been challenging. But be kind to each other and remember to take care of yourself.
Indeed. Yeah, I hit the gym this morning. I'm trying to get in shape and on the physical, and then of course we had the self-care with the the mental and spiritual. And I think the arts actually help in that domain by giving people an outlet to be able to reflect and to delve deep into themselves and to see those areas in which they can improve and the like, and maybe even be inspired to be better, in a situation and grow from that. And so the arts can help you in many different ways. But I want to thank each and every one of you who, again, are listening live. And then, of course, those of you who are catching the archive, those of you who have, interacted in the comment section on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. This has been the Cleveland All-Stars Week. And we have conversed with some very, very powerful and very, very knowledgeable and insightful and dynamic people. And we will definitely speak with some more people out of Cleveland, Ohio, the next week that will be focused on in terms of a geographical space will be Detroit, Michigan. So we're going to be introduced to a lot of dynamic people coming out of Detroit, and we'll just be doing this, for cities across the country. So we started off with Cleveland, Ohio, and we'll keep this up and then go across the world. So places in Africa, places in Europe, places in South America, and the whole point is I want y'all to get connected and learn from the people and meet the people who I meet. So my network is your network. And so I thank each and every one of you. Make sure that you be safe out there, and love on your loved ones. This situations uh, been happening lately remind us about our the gift of life, and the importance of good human relations. So hug your loved ones, tell them you love them, and I will see you all next time. Peace.